Chosen one. Can you feel it? That stirring in your spirit right now wasn't random. It was orchestrated by heaven itself. You've been drawn to this moment not by coincidence, but by divine appointment. These words finding you confirms what the universe has always known about you. You are a chosen one. And today, heaven is breaking its silence over your life. Some of you have been dreaming of broken chains lately, of doors suddenly opening without human hands, of light flooding into rooms that have been dark for seasons. That's not your imagination. That's heaven confirming this message is for you specifically. Have you noticed how certain relationships mysteriously drain your energy? How specific environments seem to dim your inner light? How particular conversations somehow deflate your God-given enthusiasm? This isn't coincidence. This is spiritual warfare against your anointed purpose. Toxicity is the enemy of world-class success. These words reveal why so many called to greatness never manifest it. They allow spiritual vampires to drain their divine energy until their assignment becomes diluted, delayed, denied. Throughout history, every vessel of purpose faced strategic opposition. Moses had his Pharaoh, David had his Saul, Joseph had his brothers, Esther had her Haman. And you have spiritual mosquitoes, tiny yet deadly influences, silently feeding on your divine calling before you even recognize the damage. Today, heaven is activating discernment within you. Today, your spirit will recognize what your eyes couldn't see. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against rulers of the darkness of this world. Ephesians 6:12 reminds us, your battle isn't merely physical, it's spiritual. The difference between chosen ones who fulfill their destiny and those who remain frustrated with unrealized potential comes down to this singular truth. Protection precedes manifestation. Are you prepared to protect what God has placed within you? Are you ready to guard the sacred calling that has been whispered to your soul? Take a deep breath. Let your spirit expand, because what you're about to receive isn't just information. It's liberation. This is your divine moment of awakening. Section 1. The Invisible Danger. Chosen one. Not every enemy announces their arrival with drums of war. The most dangerous threats to your destiny aren't wielding swords in the open battlefield. They're sitting across from you at dinner tables. They're sending you supportive text messages. They're offering you realistic advice about your dreams. These spiritual mosquitoes, tiny yet deadly, silently drain your divine life force, drop by drop, until your purpose lies anemic and your calling gasps for breath. Can you recall a moment when your spirit felt suddenly heavy after a particular conversation? When your enthusiasm for your calling mysteriously evaporated following time with certain individuals? These aren't random emotional fluctuations. They are spiritual barometers, measuring the toxic pressure certain relationships place on your divine purpose. Miles explains this powerful truth. Mosquitoes claim so many lives because they can carry and infect humans with a range of potentially deadly diseases. They can pass these diseases on to other parasites, increasing the risk to us humans further still. Similarly, toxic influences in your life carry spiritual diseases, doubt disguised as wisdom, fear masked as protection, limitation presented as reality, distraction wrapped as opportunity. These influences manifest in three distinct forms. The bloodsuckers, those who emotionally manipulate and drain your energy, leaving you feeling depleted after every interaction while they walk away energized by what they've taken from you. The invisible suffocators, the glass half-empty individuals who subtly release toxic fumes of negativity, contaminating your atmosphere of faith until your vision begins to shrink to match their limited perspective. The PTAs, pain in the ass, those who create unnecessary drama and complexity in your life, ensuring your focus remains on their chaos rather than your calling. Look around you. Who makes you feel depleted after spending time with them? Whose negativity dims your spiritual light? Who subtly discourages your growth and higher calling? The challenge for many chosen ones is that these toxic influences often wear the mask of love. They come disguised as protection, friendship, family, or mentorship. Their familiarity makes them difficult to identify and even harder to remove. But remember, your divine purpose is too important to be sabotaged by those who cannot see your true potential. Have you ever wondered why some people seem to celebrate your failures more than your victories? Why certain individuals grow uncomfortable when you speak of your God-given vision? This is not your imagination. This is spiritual discernment awakening within you. Be not deceived. Evil communications corrupt good manners. 1 Corinthians 15:33 speaks directly to this truth. The company you keep shapes the destiny you'll reach. Consider the profound metaphor of the garden. Every master gardener knows that weeds don't announce their presence with dramatic fanfare. They begin as tiny, innocent-looking sprouts that, if left unchecked, will strangle the life from your carefully cultivated plants. Your purpose is that garden. Your divine assignment is those precious plants, and those toxic influences. They are the weeds that appear harmless at first glance. What happens to a chosen one who fails to recognize these spiritual weeds? Their energy becomes diverted, their clarity becomes clouded, their divine momentum becomes stalled, their heavenly assignment becomes delayed. The enemy of your destiny is clever. He rarely sends obvious obstacles. Instead, he plants individuals in your path who question your calling, who inject subtle doubt into your divine certainty, who create confusion around your crystal-clear purpose. A single moment of genuine discernment can save you years of wasted energy and diverted purpose. Ask yourself now, who consistently leaves you feeling smaller than when you arrived? Whose presence seems to dim the prophetic fire within you? When do you find yourself compromising your divine standards to maintain peace? The answers to these questions hold the key to unlocking your next level of spiritual advancement. Your assignment as a chosen one isn't to judge these individuals. It's to recognize their impact on your sacred energy and to take divinely guided action to protect your anointing. Can you feel the weight lifting as you identify these influences? Can you sense the clarity returning as you name what has been draining you? This recognition is the first step toward reclaiming your spiritual power and protecting your chosen paths. Type 111 in the comments if you're beginning to see these spiritual mosquitoes in your life. Your recognition activates your liberation. Section 2. The Sacred Protection of Boundaries. Chosen one. Your yes has no power until you learn the divine strength of your no. Have you ever wondered why ancient temples had walls? Why sacred spaces had veils? Why holy ground had boundaries? The divine has always understood what many believers still struggle to grasp. What is precious must be protected. From the Garden of Eden, with its cherubim guards, to the Holy of Holies, with its thick curtain. Heaven has always established boundaries around sacred purpose. Your calling carries that same sacred quality. It deserves that same divine protection. Miles shares this profound wisdom. When I look back on my 3-decade career, the number one controllable reason holding people back from achieving their dreams is not setting proper boundaries with the world around them. For the chosen one, boundaries aren't selfish. They're sacred. They don't limit your impact, they focus it. They don't restrict your love, they purify it. They don't diminish your giving, they sustain it. Consider the story of Oprah Winfrey, who rose from poverty and abuse to become one of the most influential spiritual voices of our time. Her journey required removing toxic people and influences. Even when painful, she understood that her mission demanded protection. I think you can change the world or be around negative people. You can't do both, teaches spiritual guide Robin Sharma. This wisdom reveals the impossible choice many chosen ones face, maintaining comfortable relationships or fulfilling their divine purpose. Have you been trying to do both? Have you been attempting to change the world while allowing those who cannot see your vision to shape your decisions? The universe waits to see if you will honor your calling enough to defend it. Heaven watches to determine if you value your anointing enough to shield it from those who would diminish it. Guard your heart above all else, for it determines the course of your life. Proverbs 4:23 reveals this ancient wisdom. Your heart, your spiritual center, is the wellspring from which your purpose flows. If that wellspring becomes contaminated, everything downstream is affected. Have you felt the painful tension between honoring your divine assignment and maintaining relationships that drain you? Have you experienced the guilt that comes when you begin to establish healthy boundaries? This discomfort isn't a sign that you're making a mistake. It's evidence that you're growing into your divine authority. When a butterfly begins to emerge from its cocoon, the struggle appears cruel to those watching. Yet that very struggle strengthens its wings for flight. Your struggle to establish boundaries may appear harsh to onlookers, but heaven sees it as the necessary preparation for your elevation. When you begin to establish divine boundaries, those who benefited from your boundaryless existence will resist. They may accuse you of changing, of becoming selfish, of abandoning them. Their response reveals the nature of the relationship. Was it built on mutual respect and support, or on their ability to access your energy without restriction? The chosen one must develop the spiritual discernment to recognize the difference between conviction and condemnation. Conviction is that divine nudge guiding you toward healthier boundaries. Condemnation is the guilt designed to keep you tethered to toxic connections. Which voice are you listening to today? Moses had to separate himself to receive divine instruction on Mount Sinai. Jesus regularly withdrew from the crowds to pray. Mary chose to sit at the feet of the Master, while Martha became distracted with much serving. Throughout sacred history, we see this pattern. Divine purpose requires divine boundaries. What relationships in your life need reimagining? What environments no longer serve your higher calling? What conversations consistently pull you from your spiritual center rather than anchoring you more deeply within it? The answers may challenge you. The implementation may test you, but the freedom on the other side will transform you. Remember, you can love people from a distance. You can honor your divine assignment while still treating others with compassion. You can establish boundaries without building walls. The difference between a boundary and a wall is profound. A boundary says, "This is what I need to fulfill my purpose." A wall says, "You can never come near me again." Most chosen ones need more boundaries, not more walls. Your willingness to answer these questions honestly will determine how fully your divine assignment manifests in this season. Type 222 in the comments if you're ready to establish sacred boundaries around your divine purpose. Your declaration signals heaven that you're prepared for the next level of spiritual authority. Section 3. Conducting the Spiritual Mosquito Audit. Chosen one. The time for divine action has arrived. This isn't just another spiritual exercise. This is a sacred extraction of everything that has been feeding on your divine purpose. What awaits you on the other side of this audit? A liberation so profound that areas of your life that have been stagnant for years will suddenly begin to flow again. Visions that have been dormant will reawaken with breathtaking clarity. Divine connections that seemed delayed will manifest with perfect timing. Are you ready? Begin by creating sacred space through meditation or prayer. Ask for divine guidance to see clearly the influences in your life without judgment or attachment. This isn't about condemnation, it's about illumination. In this holy moment, I invite you to enter the chamber of divine revelation. Close your eyes. Take a deep breath. Feel the presence of your Creator hovering near, waiting to impart wisdom that will liberate your spirit. The mosquito audit is nothing less than holy ground, a burning bush moment where God reveals what must be released for your next level of anointing to manifest. Now, systematically examine each relationship and influence in your life, asking these revealing questions. Does this person or influence uplift my spirit or drain it? Do I feel aligned with my purpose after spending time with them, or pulled away from it? Do they celebrate my growth and expansion, or subtly undermine it? Are they open to my spiritual evolution, or do they try to keep me small and familiar? Do they reflect my highest values, or contradict them? Miles explains, by conducting a mosquito audit and removing negative influences through intentional living, individuals can create a path to becoming passion-struck. This requires doing away with people, media, habits, and behaviors that destroy your passion. Have you ever stood at the edge of a major breakthrough, only to feel inexplicably held back? Have you sensed promotion hovering near, yet something invisible seemed to anchor you to your current level? What you felt wasn't imagination, it was spiritual resistance. And not just any resistance, it was the accumulated weight of toxic influences that have been permitted to remain in your sacred space. Do not be unequally yoked together with unbelievers. For what fellowship has righteousness with lawlessness, and what communion has light with darkness? 2 Corinthians 6:14 offers divine instruction that extends beyond romantic relationships. It speaks to every connection that influences your sacred journey. I want you to imagine your divine purpose as a precious flame. Some relationships act as oxygen, causing that flame to grow brighter. Others function as water, systematically extinguishing what God has ignited within you. Which individuals in your life fan the flame of your calling? Which ones consistently douse it with doubt, distraction, or dismissiveness? The answers may surprise you. Often, the most dangerous influences aren't those who openly oppose you, they're the ones who claim to support you while subtly steering you away from your divine assignment. Not everyone who says to me, "Lord, Lord," and will enter the kingdom of heaven, but only the one who does the will of my Father. Matthew 7:21 reminds us. Similarly, not everyone who claims to support your purpose actually aligns with its fulfillment. As you conduct your spiritual mosquito audit, remember that you're not simply reorganizing relationships, you're reclaiming territory that the enemy has used to hinder your progress. Create a sacred document where you honestly assess each significant relationship in your life. Rate each one on a scale of 1 to 10. How aligned is this person with my divine purpose? How energized do I feel after spending time with them? How truthful can I be about my spiritual journey in their presence? How supported do I feel in pursuing my calling when I'm with them? This sacred inventory isn't meant to be shared. It's between you and your Creator. It's a consecrated tool for illuminating what has remained in shadow. Some toxic influences must be completely removed from your life. Others require the establishment of firm boundaries. Still others can be transformed through honest conversation and new patterns of interaction. Trust your inner guidance to show you the appropriate action for each situation. The chosen one must develop spiritual discernment to navigate these complex decisions. This isn't about judgment, it's about discernment. This isn't about rejection, it's about protection. This isn't about abandonment, it's about advancement. Only the chosen ones will understand that sometimes the most loving act is creating distance that protects both your purpose and the other person from toxic entanglement. Type 3003 in the comments if you're committing to this sacred audit. Your declaration signals to heaven that you're ready for divine discernment to operate through you at unprecedented levels. Section 4. Filling the sacred space. Chosen one. Nature abhors a vacuum. What you remove must be replaced. What you release must be renewed. What you extract must be exchanged. This is the divine law of spiritual territory. The space you've reclaimed through your mosquito audit must be consecrated with divine connections, heavenly wisdom, and sacred practices. Otherwise, the void you've created will either be filled intentionally by your choices or unconsciously by default. When an unclean spirit goes out of a man, he goes through dry places, seeking rest, and finding none. He says, "I will return to my house from which I came." And when he comes, he finds it swept and put in order, Then he goes and takes with him 7 other spirits more wicked than himself, and they enter and dwell there. And the last state of that man is worse than the first. Luke 11:24-26 reveals this profound spiritual principle. Have you ever cleansed your life of negative influences only to find yourself surrounded by similar energies months later? Have you wondered why the same toxic patterns seem to reappear despite your best efforts to break free? This recurring cycle wasn't your failure. It was simply the operation of spiritual law. What is removed must be replaced with something stronger, purer, more aligned. Miles teaches, once you have cleaned house, start doing the hard work of replacing those identity killers with people and content that you trust to lead you well in defining your unique self-identity. This is where the chosen one practices intentional curation of their spiritual environment. Seek mentors who embody the qualities you aspire to develop, those who have walked the path before you and carry the wisdom of experience without the burden of jealousy. Build community with others who honor your calling and support your growth, sacred connections, who see your potential even when you can't see it yourselves. Consume wisdom that expands your consciousness and deepens your spiritual understanding, divine nourishment that feeds your soul, rather than simply entertaining your mind. Create rituals that protect your energy and renew your connection to purpose. Holy habits that anchor you in truth when circumstances try to destabilize you. Cultivate environments that nurture your gifts and inspire your mission, sacred spaces where your spirit can breathe freely without constant defense. Can you feel the difference when you enter certain environments? How some spaces instantly lift your spirit while others immediately deplete it. How certain conversations ignite your passion while others extinguish it. This is the tangible reality of spiritual atmosphere, and you are now called to become the curator of your own. Imagine your life as a sacred garden. You've done the difficult work of removing the weeds. Now comes the beautiful labor of planting seeds that will blossom into your divine destiny. What seeds will you plant in this newly cleared soil? Who are the divine connections waiting to enter your life? Those kindred spirits who will see your calling before you fully comprehend it yourselves. Who will water your gifts without jealousy. Who will celebrate your advancement as if it were their own. Iron sharpens iron, and one man sharpens another. Proverbs 27:17 isn't just poetic imagery. It's a spiritual directive for the chosen one. Your purpose requires refinement that can only come through aligned relationships. Consider David, who found his Jonathan a soul connection that strengthened him for kingship. Consider Ruth, who found her Naomi a spiritual mother who guided her to divine positioning. Consider Paul, who found his Timothy a spiritual son who extended his legacy. These sacred connections weren't random. They were divinely orchestrated to fulfill heaven's purposes. Thaddeus Bullard, known to many as WWE superstar Titus O'Neil, exemplifies this truth. Rising from poverty and abuse, he removed negative influences and surrounded himself with mentors who saw his potential. Today, he not only achieves personal success, but gives back generously to others. What sacred knowledge are you being called to consume? Not all information carries the same spiritual frequency. Some teachings will accelerate your journey, while others will detour it. What divine rituals will structure your days? From ancient times, sacred practices have created containers for supernatural power. Whether it's morning meditation, prophetic journaling, or intentional silence, these aren't merely habits. They're portals through which heaven's resources flow into your earthly journey. The quality of what you allow to fill your reclaimed space will determine the manifestation of your divine assignment. One profound truth separates chosen ones who fulfill their purpose from those who merely dream about it. They understand that protection without replacement leads to regression, but protection with divine replacement leads to progression. Type 444 in the comments if you're committed to intentionally filling your sacred space with aligned influences. Your declaration activates a season of divine connections coming into your life with supernatural timing. Section 5. The Divine Resistance. Chosen One. There is a truth that must be spoken into your spirit with tender clarity. When you begin to protect your divine assignment, you will face resistance. This resistance isn't evidence you're making a mistake. It's confirmation you're making progress. The spiritual law of opposition states that anything of heavenly value will face earthly challenge. Your decision to conduct the mosquito audit and establish sacred boundaries will trigger reactions from those who benefited from your boundaryless existence. Have you ever noticed how the moment you decide to elevate, opposition intensifies? How when you commit to your calling, challenges multiply? How when you finally say yes to heaven, the world suddenly screams no? This isn't coincidence, it's confirmation. A prophet is not without honor, except in his own country, among his own relatives, and in his own house. Mark 6:4 reveals this painful reality. Often, the greatest opposition to your divine boundaries will come from those closest to you, those who have grown accustomed to unlimited access to your energy, time, and resources. Some will accuse you of being different, and they're right. You are different. You're becoming who you were created to be, rather than who they needed you to be. Can you feel the tension between who you've been and who you're becoming? Between the comfortable familiar and the uncomfortable divine? Between human approval and heavenly alignment? This tension isn't something to avoid, it's something to embrace. It's the birth pangs of your authentic purpose pushing through the constraints of others' expectations. Miles powerfully observes, "The people who mind don't matter, and the people who matter don't mind." This wisdom offers freedom to the chosen one, navigating the complex terrain of relationship transitions. When Noah built the ark, he faced ridicule. When David prepared to face Goliath, his own brothers questioned his motives. When Jesus declared his purpose, his family thought he was out of his mind. Divine assignment has always attracted human opposition. What does this opposition look like in the life of the modern chosen one? It appears as subtle guilt trips designed to pull you back into toxic dynamics. It manifests as passive-aggressive comments about your new spiritual phase. It shows up as sudden emergencies when you've set aside time for your divine development. It emerges as mockery disguised as concern for your well-being. It surfaces as others making you responsible for their emotional state. Have you experienced these forms of resistance? Have you felt the pull to abandon your divine boundaries to keep others comfortable? Have you questioned your discernment when faced with emotional manipulation? Do not cast your pearls before swine, nor give what is holy to the dogs, lest they trample them under their feet, and turn and tear you in pieces. Matthew 7:6 provides divine permission to protect what is sacred within you, even when others don't understand its value. Remember this truth. Chosen one. Not everyone is equipped to handle your authentic power. Not everyone has the spiritual capacity to celebrate the unfolding of your divine purpose. Not everyone deserves unfiltered access to your sacred energy. This isn't about superiority. It's about spiritual stewardship. Imagine you've been entrusted with carrying precious water through a desert to those dying of thirst. Would you allow others to carelessly spill that water along the way? Would you permit anyone to contaminate what was meant to save lives? Your divine purpose is that life-giving water. Your spiritual gifts are that precious resource. You have been entrusted with them not for your ego, but for your assignment. When you protect your purpose from toxic influences, you aren't being selfish. You're being faithful to the divine trust placed within you. The opposition you face isn't personal, it's positional. It's not about who you are. It's about what you carry. It's not about your human identity. It's about your spiritual authority. Ask yourself, am I willing to disappoint others temporarily to fulfill my purpose eternally? Am I prepared to be misunderstood in the present to manifest divine assignment in the future? Am I ready to honor heaven's calling even when it costs earth's comfort? Your answers to these questions will determine whether opposition becomes an obstacle that stops you or a catalyst that strengthens you. The divine paradox is this: the very resistance designed to discourage you contains the resistance training necessary to develop you. Every accusation, every guilt trip, every manipulation becomes spiritual weight training, building the sacred muscles you'll need for your next level of assignment. Type 51255 in the comments if you're ready to embrace divine resistance as confirmation of your chosen status rather than contradiction of it. Your declaration signals to heaven that you understand the divine purpose behind your opposition. Section 6. The Ancestral Cleansing. Chosen One. There's a deeper revelation I must speak over your life today. Some of the toxic influences in your life were inherited rather than chosen. The generational patterns that flow through your bloodline, fear disguised as caution, scarcity masked as practicality, mediocrity presented as humility. These are spiritual mosquitoes that were feeding long before you recognized their presence. Have you ever wondered why certain struggles feel strangely familiar? Why particular limitations seem to have invisible but unbreakable boundaries? Why specific toxic patterns repeat not just in your life, but across your entire family history? These aren't coincidences. These aren't personal failures. These are generational mosquitoes. The Lord is slow to anger, abounding in love and forgiving sin and rebellion. Yet he does not leave the guilty unpunished. He punishes the children for the sin of the parents to the third and fourth generation. Numbers 14:18 reveals this sobering reality. The spiritual atmosphere of previous generations creates weather patterns in your own life. What if I told you that your current struggle isn't just about you? What if this battle you're fighting is one that no one in your bloodline has had the spiritual strength to overcome until now? The chosen one must recognize a powerful truth. Your divine selection isn't just for your generation, it's for restoration of what was stolen from those who came before you. You stand at a pivotal moment in your bloodline's spiritual history. The toxic cycles that diminished your ancestors' potential now face a formidable opponent, a chosen one, who recognizes their presence and refuses their continued influence. For though we walk in the flesh, we do not war according to the flesh. For the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty in God for pulling down strongholds. 2 Corinthians 10. 3-4 offers divine strategy for this ancestral cleansing. This level of the mosquito audit requires supernatural discernment. You're not just identifying toxic people. You're recognizing toxic patterns. You're not just establishing boundaries with individuals. You're breaking agreement with generational curses. Some of you have dreamed of chains being broken, of ancient doors being unlocked, of light entering rooms that have been dark for generations. These aren't random images, they're divine notifications that you've been selected as the pattern breaker in your family line. Consider these revealing questions. What limitations were spoken over you so consistently that you accepted them as truth? What dreams were dismissed in your family as unrealistic or impractical? What toxic relationship patterns do you see repeating across generations? What spiritual gifts were suppressed or condemned in your bloodline? What level of success seems to hit an invisible ceiling in your family history? The answers reveal the ancestral mosquitoes that have been draining divine potential from your bloodline. When you stand against these generational patterns, you aren't just changing your life, you're altering your legacy. You're not just protecting your purpose, you're redeeming your family's spiritual inheritance. This isn't just personal transformation. This is generational revolution. Moses was raised in Pharaoh's house, but had to break agreement with Egyptian values to fulfill his divine assignment. Ruth had to declare, "Your people shall be my people, and your God, my God, to step into her destiny." Jesus often corrected religious traditions with, "You have heard it said, but I say to you," Each pivotal biblical figure faced the challenge you now confront, breaking agreement with inherited limitations to embrace divine possibility. The ancestral cleansing may be the most difficult aspect of your mosquito audit because these toxic influences don't feel foreign. They feel like home. They don't register as abnormal. They register as normal. They don't appear as obstacles, they appear as identity. But hear this liberating truth. You were chosen precisely because heaven saw in you the spiritual strength to break what couldn't be broken before you. You were anointed specifically because the divine recognized in you the courage to confront what was accepted before you. You were called intentionally because your spiritual DNA contains the exact coding required to rewrite your family's destiny. This isn't about dishonoring your ancestors. It's about honoring their unfulfilled potential by refusing to perpetuate the limitations that bound them. When you conduct this ancestral cleansing, you may feel the weight of generations watching. Some family members might resist, uncomfortable with the mirror your transformation holds to their continued participation in toxic patterns. Others may feel threatened by your liberation, as it challenges their resignation to the way things are. Stand firm. Chosen one. Your boundary setting isn't just for you, it's for every generation that follows you. Your mosquito audit isn't simply personal, it's prophetic. Type 888 in the comments if you're ready to become the ancestral pattern breaker your family line has been waiting for. Your declaration signals to heaven that you accept your divine appointment as the generational curse breaker. Section 7. The Divine Acceleration. Chosen one. Listen carefully to what I'm about to reveal. There is a supernatural phenomenon that occurs when you complete your spiritual mosquito audit with courage and conviction. Divine acceleration. Have you noticed how certain individuals seem to accomplish in 1 year what takes others a decade? Have you observed how particular ministries, businesses, or movements suddenly experience exponential growth after periods of stagnation? This is the power of divine acceleration that follows spiritual purification. What previously took years now manifests in months. What seemed distant on your horizon suddenly appears within reach. The prayers that felt unanswered begin receiving heaven's response with breathtaking speed. This isn't mystical thinking. This is spiritual physics. When you remove the toxic resistance that has been draining your divine energy, the momentum of your purpose experiences supernatural multiplication. 1 can chase 1,000, and 2 can put 10,000 to flight. Deuteronomy 32:30 reveals this exponential spiritual principle. It's not linear, it's multiplicative. Removing one toxic influence doesn't just add back the energy. It was draining it multiplies your spiritual effectiveness. Imagine a high-performance vehicle attempting to reach its destination with the emergency brake engaged. It still moves forward, but with tremendous strain and reduced speed. When the brake is finally released, the resistance removed, the vehicle doesn't just continue at the same pace. It surges forward with newfound power and velocity. Your divine purpose has been operating with emergency brakes, engaged toxic relationships, draining your energy. Limiting beliefs, restricting your vision. Generational patterns constraining your potential. The mosquito audit is your sacred act of releasing those brakes. What happens next will astonish you. The divine connections you've been praying for suddenly appear in your path. The opportunities that seemed closed begin opening with supernatural timing. The resources you require start flowing from unexpected sources. The clarity that eluded you emerges with crystal precision. The favor that appeared selective begins resting upon your endeavors. But they that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings as eagles. They shall run, and not be weary, and they shall walk, and not faint. Isaiah 40:31 isn't just poetic inspiration, it's divine promise. When you align with heaven's agenda, by removing what drains your purpose, supernatural strength becomes your inheritance. Joseph languished in prison until Pharaoh's dream created divine acceleration. David remained a shepherd until Goliath's challenge triggered supernatural promotion. Esther lived as an orphan until a royal crisis positioned her for queenship. Throughout sacred history, we see this pattern. Divine purpose often waits in apparent stagnation until toxic influences are removed. Then supernatural acceleration manifests. Some of you have been dreaming of doors suddenly opening, of locked gates swinging wide without human assistance, of pathways clearing through dense forests. These aren't random dreams. They're prophetic glimpses of the acceleration awaiting you on the other mosquito audit. What awaits you on the other side of your spiritual mosquito audit? What divine appointments have been held in heaven's suspense until you create the space for their manifestation? What supernatural doors are poised to open once you've removed the obstacles blocking their threshold? The answers will astonish even your most optimistic expectations. Many chosen ones have experienced this phenomenon, yet few understand its spiritual mechanics. They attribute it to luck, timing, or coincidence. But you, divine warrior, now recognize the sacred truth. Acceleration follows alignment. Promotion follows purification. Manifestation follows mosquito elimination. This is why your spiritual enemies fight so desperately to keep toxic influences connected to your life. They understand what many believers miss. The removal of spiritual mosquitoes isn't just about current relief, it's about future acceleration. Every toxic relationship that drains your vision isn't just affecting today's energy, it's preventing tomorrow's breakthrough. Every limiting environment that dims your light isn't just impacting this season, it's delaying next season's elevation. The divine mathematics are clear. What you release determines what you receive. What you eliminate determines what you attract. What you prune determines what you produce. Are you ready for supernatural acceleration? Are you prepared for divine timing to suddenly compress what should have taken decades into days? Are you positioned to receive the exponential blessings that follow courageous boundary setting? The universe waits for your answer. Heaven watches for your decision. Your divine assignment hovers in anticipation of your next move. Type 777 in the comments if you're ready to experience the supernatural acceleration that follows your spiritual mosquito audit. Your declaration signals to heaven that you're prepared for compressed timelines and accelerated manifestation. Section 8. The Sacred Commitment. Chosen One. We arrive now at the divine crossroads where many begin to falter. Knowledge without application becomes spiritual entertainment rather than transformation. Revelation without response becomes intellectual curiosity rather than life-changing power. What will you do with what has been revealed to you today? Miles offers this profound challenge. At some point, we need to take ownership of the fact that we choose to keep these people around us. If we don't remove these individuals from our lives, we are choosing them. If we are choosing them, we are choosing to have our identity diminished. This is the sacred moment of decision where heaven holds its breath. Will you simply appreciate this message? Or will you apply it? Will you just contemplate these principles? Or will you implement them? Will you merely consume this revelation? Or will you be consumed by it? Be doers of the word, and not hearers only, deceiving yourselves. James 1:22 speaks directly to this critical moment in your journey. The spiritual mosquitoes draining your divine purpose don't automatically disappear when identified. They must be intentionally removed through courageous action. Can you feel the tension between what you now know and what you're called to do? Between the comfort of familiar toxicity and the discomfort of unfamiliar health? Between the immediate pain of boundary setting and the eventual agony of purpose unfulfilled? Some of you can literally feel a tightness in your chest right now, a quickening of your heartbeat, a fluttering in your stomach. That isn't random emotion, it's spiritual recognition. Your spirit acknowledging truth before your mind can rationalize it away. This tension isn't something to avoid, it's something to embrace, as evidence that you stand at the threshold of transformation. I invite you now to make a sacred covenant with your divine purpose, a holy commitment to protect what God has placed within you. Not a vague intention to do better, but a specific pledge to take courageous action. What is one toxic relationship you will address this week? Not next month, not someday this week. What is one draining environment you will limit your exposure to immediately? What is one generational pattern you will break agreement with today? What is one sacred boundary you will establish and maintain? Regardless of opposition, the specificity of your commitment determines the authenticity of your conviction. Vague spiritual intentions produce vague spiritual results. Precise divine commitments create precise divine breakthroughs. Moses didn't vaguely intend to someday lead the Israelites toward freedom. He confronted Pharaoh with specific demands. David didn't generally plan to eventually face Goliath. He stepped onto the battlefield with 5 precise stones. Esther didn't broadly hope to one day save her people. She approached the king's throne with specific risk. Your divine assignment requires that same sacred specificity. Imagine standing before your Creator at the end of your earthly journey, explaining why you allowed spiritual mosquitoes to drain the purpose placed within you. Imagine accounting for the divine assignment that remained unfulfilled because you prioritized temporary comfort over eternal impact. Imagine justifying why you permitted toxic influences to limit heaven's expression through your life. This sobering meditation isn't meant to condemn, it's meant to awaken, to stir within you the holy recognition that what's at stake isn't merely your personal happiness, it's your kingdom contribution. The universe doesn't casually select chosen ones. Heaven doesn't randomly anoint vessels for divine purpose. Your selection wasn't arbitrary, it was intentional. Your anointing wasn't accidental, it was designed, which means the opposition you face isn't coincidental, it's strategic. The toxic influences draining your purpose aren't random, they're targeted. Your commitment to remove these spiritual mosquitoes must be equally strategic. Your determination to establish sacred boundaries must be similarly targeted. In this solemn moment, I invite you to place your hand over your heart. Feel its steady rhythm, a physical reminder of the divine life force pulsing through you. This heartbeat isn't merely biological, it's theological. It marks the sacred cadence of your purpose on this earth. Will you protect what has been entrusted to you? Will you defend what has been deposited within you? Will you guard what has been given to you? The answer to these questions determines whether your life becomes a testament to what could have been or a testimony of what God accomplished through a chosen one who valued their assignment enough to protect it. Type 999 in the comments if you're making the sacred commitment today to become the gatekeeper of your divine purpose. Your declaration becomes a spiritual contract, witnessed by heaven itself. Chosen one. Your purpose is too precious to be sabotaged by toxic influences. Your divine assignment deserves protection. Your spiritual gifts require sacred space to flourish. The journey you've embarked upon today isn't merely personal improvement, it's kingdom advancement. The boundaries you're establishing aren't simply self-care, they're spiritual warfare. The toxic influences you're removing aren't just energy drains, they're assignment delays. The mosquito audit isn't a one-time event, but an ongoing spiritual practice. Regularly examine these influences in your life and have the courage to make necessary changes. Remember that this protection isn't selfish, it's essential for your ability to serve others. By guarding your energy, you ensure you have abundance to share with those you're called to impact. I want to speak something prophetic over you before we part ways. Some of you watching this have been having dreams of doors opening, of chains breaking, of light flooding into rooms that have been dark for seasons. That's not coincidence, that's confirmation that this message was divinely timed for you. For others, you'll begin to notice immediate shifts in your spirit as you implement what you've learned today. Clarity will return, energy will increase, divine confidence will rise. This isn't psychological suggestion, it's spiritual manifestation of alignment. Heaven watches with anticipation as you implement what has been revealed. Angels observe with expectation as you protect what has been entrusted. The cloud of witnesses cheers with excitement as you guard what has been deposited. You are not alone in this sacred work. Every chosen one, throughout history, has faced this same challenge, distinguishing between what feels comfortable and what is divinely commissioned, between what seems acceptable and what is spiritually necessary, between what appears harmless and what is secretly harmful. I'll leave you with this final truth. What you protect will prosper. What you permit will perish. What you defend will develop. What you surrender will stagnate. Your divine purpose is counting on your courageous protection. If this message has resonated with your soul, type 999 in the comments below. This powerful number represents completion and spiritual fulfillment, exactly what awaits you as you protect your chosen paths. Like this video if it spoke to your spirit. Subscribe if you're ready for more divine revelation. Share it with someone who needs this exact message in their season. You are chosen. You are protected. You are becoming who you were always meant to be. Until next time, walk boldly in your divine authority.